The Big E Sports Show.
Yeah, we got it going on,
The fastest hour in sports entertainment. We don't just talk about the headlines. We bring you some of the most engaging and colorful guests each and every episode for your listening pleasure. Now, without further ado, here's your host, Elissa Walker Campbell.
Hey, welcome back to the Big E Sports Show. I'm your host, Elissa Walker Campbell. Always so glad when you are with us, and we are turning the page toward another exciting year in the world of golf. No better way to break it all down than with one of our favorite voices in the game, a man who brings clarity, wisdom, decades of insight. He is a former PGA touring professional, elite instructor, prolific author whose teaching has touched players at every level. Always an honor to welcome back our dear friend, and that is Mr. Larry Miller. Hello, Larry.
Hello. Good morning, everybody. It's great to hear your voice again, and I'm eager to talk about some golf. You know, it's not exactly the start of the warm summer season for golf, but you know what? We play as much as we can.
Well, there are so many storylines, and as we turn the page to 2026, I mean, which player fascinates you the most? Maybe not just statistically, but just in terms of their trajectory and how they're playing.
You know, I thought about that, and I came up with two names that came to the forefront of my mind, you know, thinking about this. And the two names are Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth. And I ended up deciding that I think Jordan Spieth is a more interesting story, given his, his more accomplished history regarding major tournaments and wins, and how he was at the top of the game there for a while. So, you know, it's really a mystery with him. That to think that you could win all those majors early on like that and have that great run, then all of a sudden sort of lose your game, so to speak. He didn't lose it to the point that he lost his card or anything, but he didn't win for a very long time. And just he went through a spell where he could not find the fairway with his driver. And that persisted for quite a while, and it really kept his ability to contend, or even win, out of the picture for a while. So he's so talented, though, and his short game is so elite that you would think that he'd be able to figure out the driving part of the game. So, and as far as his mental game, I think he's really fabulous with that. You could just listen to the conversations that go on between he and his caddy, and how smart he is about course management and strategy. So, I think it's a matter with him of trying to put that ball in the fairway on a consistent basis. And so I'm going to be really intrigued and interested to see this year if he can find a way to do that and get back to where he was, several years ago.
Larry, if he came to you for coaching, what would be the first area that you would recalibrate heading into 2026? What would you say to him?
We would get out there and we would exhaust every possible combination with the driver and figure out, not just with his swing, but with the right equipment, with the right, makeup of his driver, along with working on whatever mechanical problems there are with his driving, with regard to the golf swing. And we would just, listen, his short game has never stopped being elite. And he's a good iron player too. So we would just find a way. I would just spend, like I said, all the time it would take to find a way to get that ball in the fairway consistently. And, it also gets to be a mental thing. When you go through a spell like that, you lose confidence. And as we know, confidence in golf is a very big thing. If you like I said before many times, there's a difference between hoping to hit a good shot and expecting to. And the successful top players in the world, they expect to hit good shots. They expect to hit the fairways, and they expect to make putts. I think Jordan got to the point where he did not expect to hit the fairway. He lost his confidence, and so that eats away at your mechanics. So anyway, I think that I think that's what I would focus on with him.
Former PGA pro Larry Miller with us on the Big E Sports Show. And, when we talk about Jordan Spieth, do you think that he still has a major championship run in him? And what version of his game would that require?
Well, I certainly do. I think due to his excellent course management and his excellent short game, which is world class for sure, one of the best. I think I don't see any reason why he can't figure out the driving part of the game. And if he does that, yeah, he could certainly win majors again because he's got the length. He hits it long enough. He makes a lot of putts. And I think if he started hitting fairways, his confidence would soar. And I think he would start scoring well enough again to contend and win majors. Absolutely.
Well, which emerging player has quietly built the foundation for a breakout in 2026? I know in the past few weeks we've talked about Michael Brennan.
Michael Brennan's one. Chris Goddard, former Oklahoma player, and that Stephen played with. He's an interesting guy. His tremendous length off the tee. I don't know. He's in the top 3 in driving distance every year. He's in that 320, 330, 340 category. And then it seems like he's one of these players that is hot and cold. All of a sudden, he'll pop up there and contend. And the next thing you know, he's down at the bottom of the list or even missing a cut. Here's now experience under his belt. I think that he is poised, to start contending even more and win even more because of his great length. So I think I think Oberg, I don't know how you want to pronounce his name.
Ludwig Oberg.
Ludwig, yeah. I think he's, with his golf swing, and you talk about somebody who drives it consistently great, not just long, but straight all the time. It's kind of a mystery as to why he hasn't kind of fulfilled, the promise that he showed that first year when he came right out of college and won and then made the Ryder Cup team. But they sort of slacked off. And I think that's another intriguing story for 26 is he going to fulfill that potential that he showed. So a lot of interesting stories coming up this year. And I think we're going to see, you're going to start, I can see all around the country in the grill rooms of country clubs, you're going to have people sitting around looking at television at the tournament saying, who is that guy? Who is that guy? Because all these names that no one's ever heard of, just coming out of the woodwork. And now the people that are in the inside of college golf, they know these guys, they know the names, but the general public doesn't. And so that's going to be something interesting this year is you're going to see a lot of names that most people have never heard of and wonder where they came from. Yeah. But they're going to be winning tournaments and contending every week.
Larry, as a former PGA Touring professional, just how fascinating is it to see this rise, this new generation of complete players and just the power that they have with their game?
Yeah, and it's more so than ever because of the numbers. Back when I was playing, you'd have a name or two every year that would come up out of the ranks, and start playing well and being at the top, but not many, maybe one or two. But now they come in droves, they come in waves and coming off the Korn Ferry Tour. And even out of Monday qualifiers, you get winners sometimes. Just recently, there was a Monday qualifier on the Champions Tour that won. And you think about that, that's pretty amazing to not even be exempt, and have to go to a Monday qualifier where you have to shoot in the mid-60s just to get in the tournament and then get in and win, with little experience on that level. So, but it's a matter of numbers. There's just so many of them that you're going to have so many, it's just mathematics. They're going to, if you have 20 or 25 of these coming up out of nowhere, you're going to have 3 or 4, they're going to win. And so it's just because there's so many good college players.
Yeah. Hey, when we reflect on 2025, we've got to talk about Rory McIlroy. That is a guy. He's not one of the new kids on the block, but he has a lot of power and was finally able to capture the Masters this year. Let's talk about and dissect, what allowed him to break through and finally complete the Grand Slam.
Well, he's just, I think, in my opinion, aside from Scottie Scheffler, I think he's the next best player in the world. And it maybe has the best golf swing ever. It's just a thing of beauty. It's unbelievable balance and grace and power all packed into one package. And I think he knocked on the door of the Masters for so long.
Yes.
And finally broke through. and just because of his sheer talent, and he did it. But I think the thing in 26 that's going to be interesting is to see what motivation is Rory going to have, to stay at the top. Because, once, some people, and I think it gets down to legacy. What do you want your legacy to be? I mean, how focused are you on your legacy? Because Rory now has done it all. He's got the career Grand Slam. He's arguably the one or two best player in the world. So how do you motivate yourself, to keep it going? Jack Nicklaus did it. He was able to do it with his ability. Jack Nicklaus was interesting because he had powers of concentration and focus that were just unparalleled. And I think that's what kept him going at the top. Does Rory have the same thing? I don't know. Does he or doesn't he? Or there are too many distractions nowadays compared to back then that they keep you from being able to focus that intently and that concentrate that, that much. So, let's, whether or not he can find some motivation to do that and keep it going is going to be interesting. It's not as easy now as it used to be.
Well, one of the highlights of 2025 was just the U.S. Open heroics of J.J. Spaun, just that, I would say, the poise, the patience, and just how he responded to pressure. What impressed you the most about just his decision-making and just how he handled it all? I mean, I was watching the highlights last night on the Golf Channel. It was awesome.
I mean, he's the epitome of the unassuming guy.
True.
Yeah, I mean, you see him on the driving range, and you want, most scratch amateurs would say, I can beat that guy, But he's a ball striking machine. And I've heard some of his peers talk about it that have known him for a long time before the public ever became aware of him. And they all said the same thing. They said that he has always been a great ball striker, tee to green. And he's doing that now on a consistent basis. I mean, just in the last, the Hero Challenge, I think he finished, second or third. Again, he's just starting all over again now and picking up where he did last year. And the people that know him really well, they're not surprised that his ascension, to U.S. Open champion and one of the top contenders on the tour now, they're not surprised at all. The general public, they're surprised because, like I said, he's very unassuming. You wouldn't say that he is filled with charisma. He's not one of those flashy kind of guys, but he gets the job done tee to green.
Yeah.
And he's got that lab putter. He knocks everything in the hole with.
He made some big putts.
yeah, he made some big putts. Look at those putts he made in the Open. But anyway, he's an interesting guy. And he's not the most marketable on the tour, but boy, he sure is racking up the titles and great finishes.
What lessons do you think young players can take away from just the discipline, the patience, really just that intestinal fortitude that Spaun displayed, not only on Sunday, but he's had some ups and downs throughout his career, and he has been steadfast. It's inspiring.
Yeah, I think the thing to emulate is his persistence, his hard work and persistence. And I've always said that. I mean, even when I was playing, I remember some players who came out, and had trouble even qualifying for tournaments. And eventually, after a year or two, they just faded away and gave it up, And there were others that I remember that persisted, and they stuck it out. And they kept developing. There's two types of players in golf. There are some shooting stars, I call them, that come out, and they're 17 or 18 and they're world beaters, and then they flame out, But the others who are not that great to begin with, but they persist and they keep working hard and they train and they get good instruction and they keep developing slowly over time. And it pays off in the end. If they have the talent, and they have of course, you have to have the ability to stick it out. You have to have the support. You have to have the financial ability to stick it out. But if you can stick it out long enough and you've got the talent, you're going to get better and better. And at some point, you just might break through, and win on the tour. And I saw it happen. Even when I played, I saw it happen several times where it went both ways. They either gave it up or kept going and ended up succeeding.
Yeah. Hey, we are winding down our time with former PGA pro Larry Miller, and it is hard to believe next week is the first full day of winter. It's approaching. So give us a quick tip for all of our golf aficionados out there. What is the most overlooked adjustment golfers make, for cold weather play? What do they got to do to get ready?
There's a couple of things. First of all, you got to realize the ball's not going to go as far. Okay, so you can't sit there and hit the same club to the same distance that you would if it were warm weather. You're going to have to back off a club, at least a half club, maybe a whole club sometimes, depending on the weather and on the temperature. Second thing is, number one, you got to stay warm because cold muscles, contract, and it's hard to be fluid and graceful and mobile and flexible, and you tend to stiffen up, your muscles, and it's hard to make a turn. So you got to stay warm. So now you have a problem. So you got to stay warm, but you can't put on so many clothes that you can't turn and can't swing because your muscles to begin with are a little cold.
Yeah.
So what you have to do, but the technology now, they've got this, they have these cold weather, sort of thermal undergarments that are very, very thin, and yet you can go out in 0 degrees, and it'll keep you fairly warm. So you got to take the time and the expense to go and get yourself, some of these things. You can find them at places that sell ski equipment and ski clothes. They're very extremely light, so they don't encumber you. They don't prevent you from turning. So the important thing is to be able to turn in cold weather. You got to be able to make a full turn. So you can't have too many clothes on. So you got to remember that. And then remember to maybe add a half or a full club to your shots.
Yeah. Hey, winter conditions demand a different kind of mental framework. Good stuff. Larry Miller joins us each and every week on the Big East Sports Show. Check out his work on LarryMillerGolf.com. And we look forward to another conversation right before the Christmas holiday. You're the best, Larry. We love you.
Yep, y'all too, and I look forward to next time, and stay warm.
Okay, sounds good. Much more coming your way on the Big East Sports Show. Come on back.